Minutes,
Okay.
right, we'll wait on the approval of any minutes. Hopefully, we'll have a quorum in a few minutes.
Oh, hi there, Laura. Supposed to have sitting
Ted
in for
Morris.
Nick here.
Oh,
Moses.
hi, yeah, okay, so you're for Nick, so
Yep.
that counts, okay. So
Who's,
that's
who said that?
Moses.
Oh, Moses,
Moses
okay.
is here for Nick. Nick is
Okay.
recovering,
Yeah, definitely.
yes, and he's doing better, but he's taking it easy, so. Okay, so, oh, and Ted is here, so I think.
Yeah,
we're
so we
good.
have 11. Yeah, we have
Yeah,
11.
yes, so we're good.
Laura,
So,
did you count me? I'm here.
I think that Rob will
Yeah, I
take the roll
counted
call
you.
now.
Yeah, you ready?
Okay,
We have
we'll take the
11.
roll call, sure.
Sylvia Alexander, not yet. Bob Bender.
Sylvia's coming in right now, Rob.
Okay. Bob, I see you there.
I'm here.
Okay. Margaret Dello. Rosemary Ginty, I
Here.
see and heard you. Me. Ed Green.
Ed,
He's not-
texted me he
not,
won't be
right?
here tonight.
Okay. Bob Fanuzzi.
I'm here.
David Gelman.
Present.
Ramdat Singh.
Present.
Ted Morris.
Here.
Charles Merdler. Omar Murray. Dan Paternak.
I saw,
I saw him earlier too.
Hey, Bob, I'm here.
Okay, okay. Laura's here. Nick, Moses for Nick.
Yep, here.
Okay. Marty. Walpole.
Here.
Okay. Julia Gomez is not coming. We don't have a treasurer yet. Sergio. No. Deb Travis. I see you.
Present.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, Sylvia Alexander joined.
Oh, it's Sylvia. Went back to Sylvia. Got you. Thank you. We have a quorum, 14.
okay, so, attendance is taken. So do we have, approval of the December 1st, 2021 Executive Committee minutes? So last year. Any discussion? Okay, so they were distributed. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, the minutes are approved.
You
Thank
didn't take a vote, Laura.
Oh. A motion. Thank you, Rosemary. Is there anyone opposed to approving the minutes? Anyone abstaining?
I am.
We
Okay,
have
so
one
there-
abstention.
Okay. I have to tie a rubber band around my finger or something like that because I blow this constantly. Okay, we have a vote. We have one abstention. And we have a quick chairperson's report. Well, I know we were discussing this, but new people have joined in. I want to congratulate Kira and Ryan on their wedding. And thank God the bride and groom have recovered from COVID that they got after the wedding, and Kira's back. And it sounds wonderful. I saw a picture. We should send it around of the bride and groom. Looked wonderful. Okay. I want to say from the Happy
Sure, if you
News.
don't mind, please do.
Yeah.
Sure.
From the happy news of the wedding, sad news on the passing of Marvin Goodman. And we all loved Marvin, and he was such an incredible board member, always so willing to help, always, whether it was taking attendance or do you need a ride home? And in so many ways, work hard committee worker. So I go back with Marvin when he was on the education committee, and his wife Phyllis chaired that committee. And, you know, we just go back a long way. So I'm sure we will all miss him, and that is a loss. A note went around that Louis Lopez, our board member, has left the board. He moved upstate. Let's see what else. We'll have an election for treasurer next week. And on Friday, I hope to send out a note by end of day regarding any board members who have expressed interest. Let me see what else. The board received a letter from Dorothy Stone, Bill Stone's widow. She has requested street naming for Bill for Hudson Manor Terrace and West 237th Street. And Bill was another stalwart board member, former board chair. He was on so many committees and he made such a huge difference. And organizations have started to send in letters in support of that. We already have 3 plus some personal letters, and that will be going on the agenda of TNT this month. I learned things about Bill from Dorothy's letter. And I just want to share that I did not know that he won numerous awards for Riverdale Neighborhood House, the Good Neighbor Award, Riverdale Community Council, Riverdalian of the Year, Hebrew Institute of Riverdale, Community Outreach Achievement Award, on and on and on. There's a very long paragraph of awards and honors because of all the civic work and you know, the organizations he was involved with. So, you know, that will be coming down the pike.
Laura, may I say something?
Of
Bill
course.
was also chair of the Bronx Community Board 8 at one time.
I did.
I didn't hear you say that.
Oh,
Okay.
okay, yes. In fact, the first time I did not really know about community boards. And so, and I had an issue and someone said, go to the community board. And I went to the gallery session and he was chair of the board at that time. That was it was like 30 years
Sorry.
ago. Yeah, definitely. I wanted to just say that attendance letters will be going out because this is the time of year, we're at the halfway mark where we start to notify the borough president of, you know, issues with that. And we'll carry it, you know, we're looking at board and we're full board and we're hoping that the committees also keep track of attendance issues and problems so we can see what the problem is and, you know, speak to those individuals. Overall, attendance is very good on the board. Overall, very good. Just a quick update on the homeless shelter at 6661 Broadway. As you know, AAPCI, the provider, is in contract with the owner. The sale is still pending. They don't own anything yet because they have to have a final contract and they're not there, which is good. And the contract has not been submitted to the controller's office and therefore it hasn't been registered. And the latest thing that the board has done is that we wrote a letter to the state controller, Tom DiNapoli, and we will also submit a letter to the new controller, Lander. The issues with them are the lack of transparency. The board was assured that after the Mox hearing, which was November 16th, that we could review the contract, but as was shown, major portions were redacted or missing. So there's a lack of transparency there. And that's a big issue for us because you can't see the environmental assessment, you can't see the contract, you can't see the request for proposal. It's just, we're, you know, it's a scandal, really. There's also a concern about the cost of the property to the taxpayers that it appears that there'll be a windfall for the owner, that twice as much, is being charged than what it should be appraised for. And I think that is a concern. And then there are possibly other expenses that need to be looked at in advance that have to do with the topography of the site and the big ledge, which is home to all the houses right adjacent to this property, and what will happen to those houses and the expenses to normalize the site and things like that, due to the enormous rock and the rock ledge. So there'll be all kinds of issues that will cost more money. So it's not even the money that they are saying, in a sense, quite possibly. And there are red flags that have been raised about the organization, where they've been referenced in the New York Times for illegal nepotism, where, it's the $500,000 salary, on the part of the executive director, how he hired his brother to be the chief financial officer. So there's just red flags. And so we have submitted this list, things that we have discussed, and asked them to examine it. So that's basically my report. Any questions? Okay. if
Well,
not-
Madam Chair, just to add a little something, you mentioned before I spent almost a better part of the day reading this stuff, and you're absolutely right that there are,
Yes,
it's not, when you say redacted, it isn't as though they took a black pen and wrote through it. They don't
It's missing.
exist. Oh,
Right.
It just isn't there.
Right.
To the point where I don't understand how they could have had a hearing on a contract when the essential elements of the contract are not present. You don't have a hearing on a contract when essential elements are not even present.
right.
But I'm sorry, I don't mean to go on, but.
No, you were there.
In the notes that I sent, there are a number of gaps that I said need to be double checked. I think Dan gave some questions to, what's his name? Pulo. And it got some answers back, and some of those answers from what I saw are incorrect. And I think I wrote, somebody else has to go down and pinpoint, nail down those specific things. They were significant elements of the contract. So it is my hope, you were looking for a date to go down, that somebody else does it and kind of follow the track of things that have to be looked at. That's all I have to say.
Dan and Rosemary went down. I'm sorry, I have said this before, and I should have said it again today. No, it was-
Say it again.
It's very important. There's a total lack of transparency, and Dan, I don't think they really answered your questions. You asked, is this the same contract that was at Mox, or are we looking at something else? I don't really think they answered.
So it's open-ended and there's been no response to it. I don't know if you want to respond to that email. I've kind of left it, for you for direction on how you want to handle it. Obviously, their answers really didn't answer some of the questions that I presented.
Well, and
Yeah.
I will say one of the answers was completely incorrect. I hadn't seen the answers until I went down and read, I did all my notes, and then I read the answers. It is not the same as what I saw. And somebody has to go down and verify those extra points, because that is really being misled by the agency. They were critical questions from Dan, critical parts of the contract, and again,
They're not
the answer that's
answering.
been received, well, it was incorrect. It was,
Right.
But somebody needs to double and triple check that, okay?
Excellent. So, moving on the agenda, Kira, you're going to give Dio's
Laura?
report.
Look at your screen.
I'm sorry, David, I did not look at my screen.
Okay,
Did not.
two things.
You got it.
One, not that it really matters, but anything that we're sending to the controller's office, I need to recuse myself. My brother's counsel in that office.
Does he have any influence?
That's why I have to recuse
I know,
myself.
I know. Excuse me.
The other thing is, if I remember, maybe I lost track, but if I remember correctly, the suspension of in person in favor of Zoom, doesn't that end in a week and a half? And if so, where's extending it stand?
I wrote a letter to the governor last month, giving the same reasons why we need to have it extended. I did speak to Jeff Dinowitz about it just a few days ago, and I asked him. He didn't have an answer, but he's reaching out to the governor and to Carl Hasty and people he knows. You know, he's pushing the issue. I don't have an answer. I just have fingers crossed. And
Okay.
I think
Fair enough.
because of what's
That's fine.
going on. Yeah, no, I'm very aware of it. Very, very aware of it. Good question. Okay. I think that Kira is going to give the treasurer's report tonight. So Kira?
Yes,
Okay.
I am. One moment. And I will just state that due to our December meeting being so close to the holidays, the budget modification hasn't been processed by OMB yet, but we expect that now to be done by Friday. So virtually this treasurer's report is the exact same without the budget modification. They haven't updated any of their reports. So I'll go through it quickly, but again, it's virtually the same thing as last month. Go through here. They're just some of the bills that we have in table 1.1. Again, this will be updated come Friday, and next month's report will reflect that. There's no budget modification because we did one last month. This is what was encumbered in December. Again, this will be updated to cover some of the bills that were outstanding. The rent and energy bill is covered by OMB, but we included in here. And that's it. So if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to take them, and you'll see a more updated report come February.
Any questions for Kira?
Yeah, actually I do.
Okay.
Kira, so you actually create this report, don't you?
Well, the treasurer does. but I
Oh,
did
okay.
this one.
All right, then I'll hold the question off till the treasurer. I think there's something that should be added to the report, another
Okay.
column. Basically, we are 3 months in to the fiscal year, and therefore we're 25% of the year. And if we are at a 25% run rate, this line item would be X, but actually we're showing Y, which is way in front of or way behind, to see if we're basically overspending. But
Okay.
we can talk about that offline.
Sure. I'll just give, so Roz created this template, which has been really helpful, and it just shows the consistency
Huh?
each month. But I'm sure when we have a new treasurer, we can explore that option.
Okay.
Absolutely.
No problem.
Dan?
Yeah, I think, in talking about the treasurer's report, we used to at one point in time, just kind of at least 1 month, put down where staff were at, and we didn't identify the staff names, but where they were at with overall hours, meaning, they accumulate certain hours of vacation time when they work either overtime or at night meetings. And I think it's just a useful tool to kind of keep the board informed of where we're at with that.
Okay, we
Especially
can
since
explore
there's-
that as well.
Yeah, especially since there's term limits now, and a lot of folks, on this board will be kind of rotating out, after 8 years. It's something that at least I feel should not be lost as we move forward, with new board members.
Okay, sure. We can definitely explore that. I just want to make note that staff doesn't get overtime. They accrue comp time if they work any night meetings. So I just want to make sure that.
So
everyone
it's not
understands
just comp time, Kira, but it's also vacation time.
that.
if they don't
Vacation,
use
yeah,
it.
sure. Vacation and
vacation.
personal time. Mhm.
And the importance of it is for budgetary purposes. So that way we know if we do lose a staff member, how long of a period of time we're going to be before we can hire somebody else, because we'll have a hole in our budget for a certain amount.
Absolutely, I understand. Mhm.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay.
Rosemary?
I just want to bring back the memory of how we got to why that that statistic is important. When a district manager left this community board, there was so much vacation time accumulated. We had no money to hire anybody until the end of that fiscal year. So that is why the importance of the accumulation of vacation and comp time is important. If somebody leaves, we are absolutely, no, OMB does not give us the money to pay them. It comes out of our budget. So to monitor it is important, not just theoretically. We had a serious issue in this board when the district manager left. So it is important that.
Understood completely. And
Mhm.
I do, just so everyone knows, I review it because I understand the history there
Okay.
with Tanya and Pablo. And I will say when Diane retired, it kind of worked out. We did have to pay her out for her time. And it just had ended when we were done the interview process. So we weren't, double paying, and it kind of just worked out very perfectly. So I will definitely explore that and report back to you guys on that. But I do review it from time to time and let Tanya and Pablo know when their time is building up and remind them just the importance of vacation for mental health for the staff. Time off is good. So definitely, thank you.
I have a question.
Sergio.
Okay, Sergio?
Yes, I'm sorry, I couldn't get to raise my hand quick enough. A couple of things. Is there a cap on the vacation time that can be accrued by the staff?
Yes.
I don't know what it is.
That,
Rosemary, go ahead.
it's oh my goodness, what did I do? I'm
So
sorry.
staff gets Tanya and Pablo get 2 weeks a year. I get 4 weeks a year. Their comp time expires after 6 months. My comp time expires the same week that I get it.
That was my question. All right, thank you.
But their vacation time can roll over into the new year.
But here's the thing, nobody can take vacation time or comp time without the approval of their superior. Okay, they cannot accumulate it staff cannot accumulate it without Kira saying, yes, I approve you to get comp time for staying for this meeting. Kira cannot accumulate time unless Laura says, I approve you to accumulate comp time even for a short period of time. The use of vacation or comp time also needs the approval of the immediate superiors. So it's not so much a cap, although there are caps. It's that it is a management function to manage the expenditure, the use of comp time and vacation time. It is considered an important management tool to manage the staff and manage the budget of an agency.
Understood. And one more quick point to Dan's point, and the very salient point that Rosemary just made by giving the history of it, and David's point, to the extent that we can look at best practices and standardize things overall. I think that's keeping in mind term limits. That's something that's going to be fruitful for the community in the future, because we're not going to have somebody who was the chair 20 years ago to remember something. So Kira, if you just put that on your radar, wherever we can do that, I think that'll be fruitful. Thank you. I'm sorry, Madam Chair. I just want to
No. This is a very productive conversation, because Kira does monitor it and I monitor it as well. And I sign off on everybody taking vacation. And I know in advance when they're taking vacation. And it's important. Yeah, no, this is a very good conversation.
David, is your hand up from before, or is it?
No, just a repeat for now. I don't want to micromanage Kira and the staff. I think Kira, as the manager, is responsible for keeping tabs on these kinds of personnel issues, and maybe quarterly or semi-annually, the chair and or the treasurer should have that conversation with Kira, but I don't think it's something for the executive committee or the board to address at a detailed level. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Dan, is your hand up from before or you have a question?
We should.
No,
Laura,
it's a
then
new
after
one.
Dan, we should
Okay.
move on.
You know, it's a new one. And David, I understand your point. However, let's keep in mind we're a board. And as much as we do have certain systems in place, it all comes back to the entire board, these decisions. So the board should be made aware of what is being done in the office with regard to hours and that they are being managed properly, just the same way the board should monitor everything else going on to make sure it's being, and obviously we're not, and I'm not saying that we're micromanaging, but we should be made aware of the information. And I think that's the point here.
We should be made aware of things that are out of line.
Okay, Laura,
I
I think
disagree
we
with
should
that,
move
David.
on. if
Okay,
possible.
Why don't we start with our, thank you all. Why don't we start with our committee resolutions?
Well, I have a brief report that I can just.
Oh,
go
yeah,
over
yeah, yeah. I'm
quickly.
sorry. It follows the treasurer's report and I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sure.
Yep. Just that, you know, the office staff and myself are really saddened to hear about Marvin. We spent a lot of time with him in the office. He even had his own desk, which will be left empty now. We have sent a letter welcoming the new borough president and invited her to an upcoming meeting. We will be reaching out to the governor's office and the mayor's office asking for a testing site in our community board. Our new website will be launched in the next week. I'd like to thank Tanya and Pablo for helping with that. It's not been an easy process, but we've certainly learned a lot. In order to follow the new guidelines, the office will be posting material needed for executive and full board meetings 24 hours in advance of those meetings. Where possible, you know, sometimes we don't have material 24 hours in advance, but we're going to be doing our best. If you have a resolution or materials to be discussed at your committee meeting, please send it to the office as soon as possible and we'll post that as well. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kira. Any questions?
I just wanted to say, I know, since I was the one who asked so many times about it, I noticed that the newsletter came out. It was nice that we were able to make a nice mention of Marvin in it. So thank you for
Yep,
getting it out.
Thank you. Thank you, of course.
Okay, so what do we have tonight in terms of resolutions? Start with, we have TNT.
We have TNT and we have a previous education. I'll pull up TNT. Just give me one moment.
I think we've got 3, 2 for Sedgwick Avenue, and then 1 response to KPOC, I think, on Palisade. So would you want me, does it make sense for me to read this, or have people already read it, and does anyone have any questions?
However you want to proceed.
I'll just read it through really quickly. And over the last several months, really, I guess, starting in June, the committee has been hearing from the community and talking about issues of safety on Sedgwick Avenue in 2 spots. One is at the very intersection of Van Cortlandt Avenue West, and then the other is on Sedgwick from that intersection to essentially 238 or Giles. So Kira, can you scroll up? This was the Sedgwick Avenue and Van Cortlandt Avenue West resolution. Therefore, be it resolved, the Traffic and Transportation Committee of Bronx Community Board 8 requests the New York City Department of Transportation perform a traffic study of the intersection of Sedgwick Avenue and Van Cortlandt Avenue West to address adverse sight lines between motorists and pedestrians and last-minute lane changes, the placement of the traffic island on Van Cortlandt Avenue West, review the feasibility of a dedicated left turn lane and signal for northbound traffic, review the signal timing for traffic in all directions, including new signals for each flow of traffic. Be it further resolved that the Traffic and Transportation Committee requests the restoration of the pedestrian crossings at all 4 sides of the intersection. And then it passed unanimously. So any questions about this one? I skipped the whereases, they're all just factual statements.
I see Dan's hand is up.
Yeah, Dan.
Hey,
Oh,
Deb,
sorry,
I just had a question. The 4 sides, when you're saying 4 sides of the intersection, do you mean the Gouverneur crosswalk? Is that the other crosswalk you're talking about?
Yeah, the north side of the intersection between the bus stop essentially, and then the top of where Van Cortlandt Avenue West, the traffic island side is. So it could be at Gouverneur or it could just simply be at the top of the
So there's
of the
Stevenson.
intersection. It would
There's
be north of,
Stevenson, right?
yeah, north of Stevenson. So north of Stevenson to a crossing Sedgwick.
North of Stevenson. I'm confused now. So
So-
there's if we start at the school, there's a
Mhm.
crosswalk there that goes to, I guess, the main intersection.
Well, there's a crosswalk across Van Cortlandt Avenue West, which is broken into two pieces. There's that crosswalk.
Yep,
And
that's
then
what I
there's the-
mean. That's Gouverneur. Yep.
Okay, and then, yeah, so, and then there's a crosswalk that goes across Sedgwick on the south
Yep.
side of that intersection. There's a crosswalk that goes across Stevenson on the east side.
Yep.
And then on the north side, where the bus stop is, there's no way to get across
There's
unless
no-
you go back around in the U.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
so
so Gouverneur, I think, is what it would be kind of correct.
there's never been a crosswalk, if I'm understanding it correctly.
So Ed and Kelly, who've lived in the neighborhood a long time, and I mean, I know you have as well,
Yeah.
said that there had been a crosswalk at one point prior to the revision of the intersection.
For 45 years, if we're talking about going to that little island in the middle, is that what you mean? And maybe I've got the complete wrong place.
Really what we're talking about is just having a way for the folks who are on the bus stop side to not have to go all the way back around. So basically cross all of the other intersections in order to get from the east side of Sedgwick to the west side of Sedgwick.
Well, they could just walk up the other way to Hillman.
But they would have to walk like quite a like more than a block up.
So, and again, I would like to make sure that there actually was something there, and we could probably ask DOT. But I can't remember in my lifetime that there was ever a crosswalk going around that busy corridor, and there's nothing in the middle. You're talking about that little, are we talking about the little traffic island where we're having issues right now, kind of? With the cars crossing at each other into the channel?
No, we're talking about the north side of the intersection.
Yeah, I think I might have the complete wrong place. Is it possible to just put up a map really quick? Or you know what, I'll chat with you offline and I'll just
Okay,
kind of
yeah.
send it. So I might have the complete wrong direction.
Right, yeah, no, I know, and I can't, I'm certainly not the expert on it.
Yeah.
Ed and Kelly both, have lived on, in the neighborhood longer than I have, and so they were, they said that there used to be something there, that it would be helpful, certainly. We all agreed it would be kind of helpful for the folks. There's a lot of crosswalk or jaywalking that happens from people getting off of the bus, kind of right next to where the exit to Fort Independence is. And so, and it's a really dangerous place to jaywalk because cars are turning that are definitely not looking for you. And so that's why we use the language of restoring the crosswalk.
Okay, we can continue.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
I'll
Yeah.
just do a thing and yeah.
Yeah, let's
just-
make sure we're talking about the same thing. And
same
then if we need to
thing,
do an
exactly.
amendment, yeah, we can
Yep.
do an amendment. Yeah,
Okay,
that's fine.
great.
That's totally fine.
David,
Great,
is
thank
your
you.
hand up for this?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm even more confused now than when I was at TNT. And Deb, can I suggest that you present and you make your cursor, do a lot of pointing because it's the same street, two different segments. So if you had a map, it would be useful.
You mean now or?
No, next week.
Okay. Okay, I can make that note. This is what it would be nice to actually be meeting in person. So any other,
Yes, indeed.
David, I don't see you in the vote. Were you there for this?
no, David wasn't, this was later in the call.
Okay, all right, okay. If there are no other questions, we'll move on to the next one.
I think we can move on. Yeah.
Mhm.
Sorry, I wasn't expecting that to be that quick. 1 second.
It portends good.
Oh, poor Kira's been conditioned.
I'm warning everybody, if it
At
goes
least,
on, for-
at least Kira wasn't like, down the block or something, saying, yeah, they're gonna be an hour.
let me just warn Bob Bender that if the meeting goes on too late, I need my sleep. I'll be turning it over to you, so.
Hey, I like to
Um,
sleep too.
I put a bird video on for the cats, and so I only have 4 more hours left, so.
Okay, so anyhow, go right ahead, Deb.
So I guess the whereases we can skip for the same reason. They're all factual. If anybody has any concerns, certainly you can let me know. I think Kara, can you scroll just down a little bit so I can get the first, therefore be it resolved? So this one is, so this is the street itself on Sedgwick Avenue from the intersection to 238. Therefore be it resolved, the Traffic and Transportation Committee of Bronx Community Board 8 requests that the New York City Department of Transportation study the feasibility of a traffic light at the intersection of Stevenson Place and Sedgwick Avenue near 3850 Sedgwick Avenue. Be it further resolved that the Traffic and Transportation Committee requests the restoration of the flashing yellow caution light at the bend between Stevenson Avenue and Van Cortlandt Avenue West, and the addition of a no standing sign on the east side of Sedgwick Avenue, just north of Stevenson Place, to clarify the existing no standing zone and reduce vehicles illegally parking and blocking sightlines. Be it further resolved that the Traffic and Transportation Committee requests that chairos be installed on Sedgwick Avenue between Van Cortlandt Avenue West and Fort Independence Street with no impact of parking to improve visibility of the presence of cyclists. Be it further resolved, the Traffic and Transportation Committee requests a study for a speed camera on Sedgwick Avenue between Giles Place and Stevenson Place.
Any questions for Deb? Okay, I don't see any questions, and that was unanimous in favor. Okay, wait, I saw a hand, Bob Bender.
Yeah, Deb, I just want to give you a little bit of background on the caution light, the yellow light.
Oh, yeah.
About a year or so ago, maybe it was even longer, I'm not sure, when we were talking about Marshallou, and particularly about an intersection of Marshallou and Liebig Avenue. And one of the things we proposed to Novardo was to put in one of those flashing lights there, because that's a problematic intersection. And we showed him the light that was on the corner of 255th and Marshallou. And he said, well, we don't put those in anymore. So the next time that light burned out, it was not functioning at all. I called it in, and the next day when I walked past it, it was gone. Rather than put a new bulb in or whatever they do for the light when the light burns out, they dismantled it. So what I'm getting at here is I think your chances of getting that yellow light restored are somewhere between 0 and 0.
Well, one thing to relight that hope is that when we had this, we did have a discussion about that light specifically in June when Novardo Lopez was still the commissioner, and he remembered it. They were able to pull up old photos from Google Maps of when the light used to be there, and he seemed to think that that was something they could just put back. So at least in his mind, it was a simple matter of putting it back. The devil's in the details, and there'll be another commissioner who will make that call. But yeah, so it's worth asking, I guess. So we'll
okay, well, if you get it, then I'll try to get it back at 255th and Marshallou.
Right, we can make another resolution.
Okay.
Sergio, I see your hand is up. Oh,
Yeah, I have something. No, that's now. I have something unrelated to the resolution. Whenever we can speak on it for Deb.
Go ahead.
Okay. And I know my head almost exploded. I know Dan's is going to explode, but Con Ed is ripping up Sedgwick Avenue south of Fort Independence.
Okay.
In a very aggressive traffic causing, noise causing, and mud causing manner. They say they're putting in new gas lines.
Okay.
I don't think we were aware of this because Con Ed only does emergencies, right?
Well, they are doing a gas line replacement. I mean, and back when Dan was chair, they presented on it last spring. But I guess I would have to go back and re-review the details of exactly what their scheduled rollout was and where the locations were. But I don't remember Sedgwick Avenue being on that list. It was.
Well, I just wanted to bring that up. Yeah, bring that up to you in the office and the members for visibility. South of Fort Independence, it looks like it goes all the way to 231st Street, maybe along the reservoir. That's all.
Okay, yeah,
Sergio.
there is known work happening with the gas upgrades of the gas line to high pressure gas.
I'll look into that as well. I actually had district service cabinet yesterday and Con Ed didn't even report anything like that. So I'm a little shocked to hear this. I will definitely take a look at what permits they've pulled and I'll reach out to them and just see what's going on.
Right, and by the way, they're making a muddy mess of it, like they're just leaving, like everybody's building and house is filthy because they're tearing up the road, wetting it down, and then just leaving all the soot on the street. It's not really being clean.
Okay,
That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Sergio.
Bob?
Thanks, Kira. I didn't get notice from Con Ed on this either. I got notice on work on North Riverdale, but nothing on Independence. I just checked.
This is Sedgwick.
Yeah, it's Fort Independence, right, at Sedgwick.
Yep, nothing in that area. Nothing.
Okay.
We'll check on that. Thank you. Okay, you're on a roll, Deb. Keep going.
So the third one is our response to the KPOC Palisade revision. So 2 months ago, the DOT emailed to the board office a plan, a new drawing of changes that they were going to make to the intersection of Palisade and KPOC, and then a list of kind of additional things that would be done in addition to the drawing. The drawing was very sparse. It was just really the change to the curb line, the change of the width of the sidewalk, where some additional grass would go. But it didn't really get into some of the details of like where porous a pavement would be, where the center channelization would be. They have not gotten approval yet from DEP for rain gardens or for bioswales or for any of the green infrastructure. So their plan was pretty sparse. They did come to the committee in December and answered the questions, but not a lot of detail was provided. The community still is generally unsatisfied. In general, like that's an understatement with the plan as it exists, and would still like to see additional changes to the curb line so that the catch basins are more aggressively targeted for the water. And so the committee decided to put together a resolution that just basically said, therefore, be it resolved, the Traffic and Transportation Committee of Bronx Community Board 8 rejects this proposal and calls for the intersection to be returned to its previous configuration.
Deb, I suggest you consider an additional whereas as the last whereas, which points to the lack of detail, the extended curb line, it's too much cement, the lack of just the things that you just mentioned as a reason, one more whereas, why you nix this whole proposal.
Okay.
Some of the things you just mentioned, it's still too much cement. It's inadequate stormwater runoff.
Or just really that it's just a sketch. I think, like, whereas many many details are not finalized or made apparent by the DOT, and the plan as provided is inadequate. I think does that kind of.
I mean,
to the heart of it?
Any other comments or discussion?
Yeah, I see several hands.
Okay.
Yes.
I see David, Ramdot, and Rosemary.
Okay,
yes.
David?
Yes, thank you. Deb, particularly if you're going to contemplate changes, I strongly suggest you bring this back to the committee. For one, I spoke with some people on the committee, and it was a late running meeting, and I think people were confused. Frankly, Georgia was opposed to this, which would bring this to 3-3. And if I was on the call at the time, I would have voted against it along with you and Kelly, and it actually would have failed. So I think you should bring this all back to the TNT committee.
You know, David, people get a chance to vote at the full board, regardless of how or if they voted in committee. And so this did go through a committee, and I respect the committee system. Any other discussion on that? But thank you, David.
But Laura, you're suggesting she change the wording.
No,
add
it would
another
have to be
word,
approved. It's
And it actually
the
was
chair,
not
but
approved.
the chair, you know, can accept an amendment at the full board or not. I mean, we're having a discussion here, and I respect what you're saying. It's just that you don't always have to have do-overs and going back to committee. It's may or may not be necessary. And you know what? It could be voted on without what I just said. I just feel it's a little more persuasive if you say something about what the problem is and it gets voted on at, you know, at the full board. Ramdot, you're next, and then Rosemary.
Hey,
Thank you.
everyone. Just a suggestion. I've seen the sketches. So Deb, it might be helpful just to show I guess the proposed sketch with this resolution of the full board as well. You know, it's just helps it a little more visual with the whereas clauses. Thanks.
Yeah, sure. That's good. That's good feedback. Thank you.
Rosemary.
Yes, thank you. I did attend the TNT meeting. It was the first item on the agenda, if I remember correctly, Deb, right? I think it was the first
Oh,
item
yeah.
that was brought up.
Yeah, because yeah, DOT was
I
there to
think
answer questions.
Exactly. But my memory of the resolution as verbalized by some members of your committee had two, therefore be it resolved. And I'll tell you why I think that is important. First of all, to reject this proposal, I think was clear. Reject the proposal. That is what came. That is what you looked at. That was the new information. And the committee said reject the proposal. The second, therefore be it resolved, it's not calling for the intersection to be returned. You passed a resolution doing that already. I think that should be acknowledged. And I'm not just saying this, it was verbalized by your committee members. Reject the proposal and reiterate, or whatever that word would be, reiterate the past resolution to restore the intersection to its configuration. That's my only point. You do what you want to do. I think that's what I heard in the discussion. Two separate, therefore be it resolved. They're different. One is reject the proposal and the other is to reiterate, bring back the intersection the way it was. I'll stop.
So Rosemary, I think the way I remember it going was that was a little bit different than what you're remembering, which is that I and maybe Kelly, I know definitely me, I was making the argument that the existing resolution was enough, and that we should, you know, actually get more detail or see what DOT was going to do before passing a resolution. That's why I was opposed to this one. That the folks who were in favor of this one, they wanted this one to replace the previous one, is how I remember it being, that this would supersede because it would be a new resolution that would supersede the existing one.
No need to continue this discussion. The fog of war,
Yeah.
obviously. Okay.
Yeah.
I have a clear memory. You have a clear memory. I just wanted to make my statement, and I'm done. Okay.
No, appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Okay, I don't see any other hands. Okay, so we'll move on to the last one for TNT.
I think that was the last one.
Oh, that was the last one, right.
resolution.
All right, so moving on.
I can share the resolution from the Education Committee.
Yeah. Right, Sylvia?
Okay. This is what, oh, I see Ted's hand and Rosemary's hand is up.
Okay, let me go here. Ted,
Hey, Laura. I'm gonna have to come off the meeting, still not feeling 100%.
oh, you sound terrible.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you for joining,
off.
Ted. Go to sleep.
all right.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night.
You
Feel
too.
better, Ted.
All right, thank you, Ted.
Does that go for everybody?
Very soon, we're plowing through the agenda. Okay, Rosemary?
I thought Independence Avenue was an item too. If not, if I'm mistaken, but I thought Independence was another resolution. I just asked the question. If the answer is no, the answer is no.
Well,
you-
oh, sorry, go ahead,
Oh,
Deb.
no, you can go, Kira.
Well, as far as I understood, and Deb, correct me if I'm wrong, we discussed that last month, but the office had sent out the wrong file. So that's why I just wanted to send it out so that executive committee had it, and I'll send it to the full board in advance of next week's meeting.
Yeah, the independence resolution is the one that we already discussed at exec last month, and that it was just tabled at the board meeting this last month, and so it will just go forward at the next board meeting. But it's the same resolution, yeah.
So just Kira, did you send it out? I got a little bit confused there.
Yeah, it's been sent to the executive committee, and I'll send it to the full board on Friday.
Oh, I did. Okay, I missed it in there somewhere.
That's it.
I do have, Laura, I do have one question about independence. Should I wait for outstanding committee issues after resolutions?
Sure,
Okay, thanks.
sure. Thank you, Dan. Okay, I don't see any other hands. Go ahead, Sylvia. This is what actually came out of that meeting. And that was sent on December 28th to the SCA.
Basically, it only changed in the be it further resolved in highlighting the some of the questions that were asked of SCA in terms of traffic, where the catchment area would come from and things like that. And their promise that they would come back to the Community Board 8 in whichever committee the issue would fall, being it touches other committees besides education. And they said they would, and this is just to remind them that they made that commitment. So basically, I can't read it really because I don't see well enough on the screen. I hope that you've all read it. It was sent out originally. This is now the final one, so I'm not sure why we're showing that now, because that would really come up in the general meeting, but in any case, this is what was sent.
Yes.
And that was our approval of the site and only the site, and everything else we should be consulted on in addition to what they're going to do. That's going to be going to the city council, and they have to vote on the site selection just as we did without any further information. And that just happens to be the way the law is written. And basically, I don't think it makes any sense because everything is left behind, but that's the way they do it.
Okay, thank you, Sylvia. And before we leave this topic, I just need to do a mea culpa. The minutes, they will be amended when they're voted on next week, because I made a comment that votes always go under the resolution. However, the votes went under a resolution. We did not vote on that resolution. The board voted on the motion that Chuck made, that the Education Committee be authorized on the matter of proposed SCA site to speak on behalf of the board. And so that is where the vote will be moved to when we, when we amend the minutes. And I just wanted to say, and plus it'll be flushed out a little bit more, so apologize for that. I have spoken with Sylvia, and we will amend the minutes. Okay, any other comments? Ramdot, your hand is up, and then
Hey,
Rosemary, and then Dan.
Hey, thank you. Just a quick question. I was wondering why the community board poll was under the resolution. Is that necessary to have that there, or am I missing something?
Well, the resolution that I put together as a draft was done in preparation for my meeting because it was in land use and it was bumped over to education. They didn't feel that there was enough of a land use issue there. And I thought it was important to follow Marty's suggestion that it get in before the 24-hour situation, being that we had to get back to SCA by January 3rd. There was no other meeting that it could have been shown at. So because of the time frame and the problem that we had, it had to be done in that way.
This was a unique situation.
Okay, thank you.
Rosemary.
Thank you. I just like to voice a concern here. I have to tell you, I thought I heard them say, no, they're not coming back. I don't know. And again, the fog of war, if they're coming back, they're coming back. Okay. But the issue here is not for a formal approval, it would be a courtesy. The formality that they have to go through is the environmental impact. And that is something that I think traditionally we probably have not handled in a great way. They will try to do everything they can to get a negative declaration during their environmental review. That's where all the information that everybody is interested in seeing, especially traffic, is going to come out in the environmental assessment statement. And therefore, I said it at Sylvia's meeting, and the committee did a great job with the resolution, but it's important that everybody gets this information. And I think the information that we're interested in is going to be in the environmental assessment statement. And I urge, Madam Chair, the office to follow when these documents are done. I am not an expert in SECRA, but the timetables can be very quick. And if this does not wind up being a full-blown EIS, which they're going to do everything in their power to make sure it isn't, the time period is going to be very short for the community and the community board to have the information that I think everybody is really interested in. I just use as an example, we will remember, those of us who are around, Hebrew Home, the environmental review for Hebrew Home, they got a conditional negative deck. Now remember, it was what, a 12-story building in an R11 with a street that you can't even fit 2 cars beside. They still got a conditional negative deck, and it was on the traffic issue. If they did not come up with the condition, and the condition was all construction vehicles, all construction workers, they have to rent a parking lot off the site, out of the neighborhood, so every construction worker can park their car and be bussed in to build the building. That is how close they came to going to a full environmental impact statement. And it was on a traffic issue. I keep thinking about this with this site. Everybody at the meeting talked about traffic. It is, I don't need to tell everybody knows that street and that intersection, and a 700-seat school is, traffic is going to be a major issue. please, somebody follow the environmental documents and get the information to those on the board who really should be reviewing it and making statements on it. And that time period could be shorter than we'd like it to be. Okay, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosemary. Dan?
Hi, Laura. Thank
Could I
you.
just adjust to something that I said, as far as the SCA coming back to us, that won't happen before the city council votes for it. It'll be further along when they are at a different stage. This is only the first stage. So we're hopeful that we will have something, some input further down the road.
And my fear is that where you want the input is during the environmental review. That's where you want the input. And
Right.
that's going to be before they go. They will go to city council with a completed environmental assessment statement with the negative deck. We need the information before. We
Okay,
should
thank
be,
you.
okay, I don't know, is Bob Fanuzzi, are you on the call? And you understand environmental review far better than I do. Is that not a fair statement that if we want that information, it's sooner rather than later?
Are we in receipt of a neg deck?
No, we're not, no,
Okay,
no.
send it over. I'll take a look. Whatever.
We don't have
whatever you
anything
have,
to
We have
send.
nothing.
Whatever.
That's
The
the point.
office will request what we can.
So this is a land use action that is under, it is getting a secret review.
With a C.
No, with an S.
Oh, with an S. It's the secret estate.
Wonder why.
Because
state.
SCA is the lead
Because
agency.
it's state,
and
yes,
that's-
yes,
okay.
yes, that's it, yes.
We
Yeah,
can,
get me
we
the
can
material,
request
get
that
me the calendar.
timeline. We can request information on that.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you.
thanks for.
Dan?
Yeah, just starting, Sylvia, you did a great job at that committee meeting, and your committee, you guys had an excellent discussion. A lot of concerns got brought out. And again, reiterate, I don't think we have to, the traffic is going to be a huge issue there. The other concern I have is, and it was raised, they had the choice between a 696, I think the number was, or a 458, and they went with the 696. I think this is an
Right.
issue that we need to follow as it goes on, because an additional 230 students is a big deal, especially when we're talking about the traffic impact and the environmental impact on this particular area. And it's something we as a board, I think, should follow. And then just procedurally, if we could just go back to the videotape and just check whatever wording we had on that resolution. I know I seconded it. If we could just follow and just take one more look at the tape. I did have a slightly different view of what we voted on. So if we can just go back to the tape on it. And again, Sylvia and your committee, excellent conversation at your meeting. I
Thank
wish we
you.
had more people there. Thank you.
So do I.
Okay.
Hmm.
Bob Bender.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I was at that meeting. It was an excellent meeting, Sylvia. I agree.
Thank you.
SCA did say clearly they would come back to us. But at the same time, I think Rosemary raises a very important point, which is that we have to monitor this situation carefully from where we are right now all the way through the process. But all we were doing, all we were authorized to do at that meeting was to vote on the site itself and whether it is an appropriate site for a school. And I don't recall that there was any real debate over that issue. There were a lot of questions raised about the size of the school, obviously about the traffic. And I had the clear understanding from that meeting that we are going to be engaging with SCA on those questions, the design of the school and so forth. So it was on that basis that I was in favor of it. But we want to stay on top of this situation, definitely.
Well, the number of students, for example, that's the Board of Education, that's the Department of Education.
Right.
And they work in mysterious ways. So we'll put our heads together to see how we can get information about the numbers and whatever. Yeah, they kept saying this is not our bailiwick, it belongs there. But you're right, Bob. They were there about the item of, is it an appropriate site? And that's that's why that was the number one, be it resolved that we approve this site. They needed to have that first. Okay.
I think that as far as SCA is concerned, I think that they were very, Nicole was very giving with her information. It was her opinion, not fact. We can't hold anyone to it. But it was a different kind of a meeting than I've ever been with the SCA, because usually they just put their foot down and say this is good, the way it's going to be, and just let it go. So I am hopeful that we will be contacted. We can monitor it and we can reach out. But I do believe that the feeling of SCA and the community board is a little bit better than it was in the past. So I'm very hopeful.
It was 0 in the past.
It was 0,
Right.
less than 0.
Right. You and I have had this conversation.
DOE is just as bad and maybe even worse, because they're just going to put whatever program they want in there and just make it work, whether it's overcrowded or whatever. So, you know, as far as DOE is concerned, unless the new chancellor is very different, I think that we have nothing to say.
Absolutely. Okay, Marty,
Laura.
and then Bob Fanuzzi.
Nope, sorry.
Well, Sylvia just made my point. I think SCA, BOE, and DHS all fit in the same pot. They're doing us a favor by talking to us. They never came to us before. I think a number of times they confused us with the Education Council for District 10, as opposed to the community board having input. So all the questions we asked were responded with, either it's not our responsibility, we don't know. They only came to tell us about the site and whether or not we thought a school could go there. I think with our hands tied behind our backs, we agreed it's a school should go there, but there are too many other questions that are totally unresolved, and I doubt from our perspective ever will be.
Thank you, Marty. Bob Fanuzzi?
So yes, if you're looking at impacts, the way to now that you've invited or blessed in some sense with a very good resolution, congratulations, Sylvia, I thought it was very well done too. There will be a calendar, so that's crucial to know what the calendar is. At that point, you would want to decide what, if there was any option or ability or opportunity to comment, in what committee it would land back in. Okay, so Laura, I just wanted to emphasize that it would remain. So if people wanted me to take a look at the secret action, that I would be looking at it, advising on a calendar, but I do believe that this should, if the board wanted to follow up on potential impacts, it would remain with the committee that it is now.
Okay. Thank you. But we will be inquiring on that first thing and report back.
Okay.
I don't see any other hands up on this issue. Again, thank you, Sylvia. Thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much. And next on the agenda is committee member issues for discussion. Are there any hands? Dan?
Hey, Laura, just one. And it was dealing with independence, and I know that resolution is coming back to the board. I had sent an email to you and Deb this week, and I just kind of want to state to the executive, just my strong feeling that this entire resolution coming forward with rescission/superseding is all premised on a conversation from DOT to our traffic chair. And I firmly believe, and I've asked before, and I renew that request now, we asked DOT to put those statements in writing. I think if we're moving forward on a rescission or superseding, that we get those statements from DOT in writing in an email. As previous traffic chair, I can tell you, I can remember one story. There was a request for DOT, called our board office, And Kira, I think you got the phone call where they wanted me not to put forward any more resolutions. They didn't want any more resolutions from the TNT committee. And my response to Kira, and Kira, you could, I'm sure you went back and gave the response, was put it in writing. This was probably 4 or 5 years ago. I still haven't gotten that in writing. And I think if we're going to act here, and believe me, at this point, I really don't want DOT touching much of anything these days until we know what they're doing. I just feel we should have it in writing. And I renew that request. And I hope before next week, we could ask DOT to put those statements in writing. And I'll stop there.
Thank you, Dan. Bob, is your hand up from before?
Yes, and I do have a concern. Like all of you, I've been stunned about the testing capacity of our district. I look every day, and I just wanted to report that thanks to SAR, there is a new testing site on, it's called Level Up MD, just north of the post office on Riverdale Avenue.
Is it where the bank was?
Yeah, I think it's the professional building, Laura, on the further up. But I just wanted to do a poll, everybody, about if your community is being served by testing. Mine has been really just scandalously underserved. And I think, I can't believe it, but we have to resume our pressure on more testing. Am I wrong about this? I just wanted to hear from my fellow board members about their testing availability in their community and their experience through the holidays.
Before anyone speaks, I just want to report, I don't know if you heard earlier, but this had come up at District Service Cabinet yesterday. There is definitely, you know, a shortage in testing in our community board, city and state sites anyway. Obviously, you can go to a pharmacy and a private testing facility.
You actually
but
can't,
obviously,
Kira. They're out and they're lined, so it's
exactly, yeah. They're in.
Yeah.
It's not accessible to everybody. It's cold outside. If you're already sick, the last thing that we want people to do is stand outside next to other people. So we are working on reaching out to our mayor and governor about testing sites. I know Assemblyman Dinowitz was going back and forth with the governor's office, and he was hitting a brick wall, from what I understand. But like I said, we are going to be following up with that request.
other
This week.
parts of the I would encourage you to map and take a look at other political officials websites, which does list, and other just the location of these. The Bronx has a lot, but not the Northwest Bronx. Was City MD was City MD on Broadway closed down? Because I know they had to close down because of lack of staff.
Staffing, yeah, exactly.
That did close then on 237.
It did. I don't know if
Okay.
it's since reopened, but it did close.
So Bob, good evening.
Yeah.
How are you?
Good, Omar. How are
All
you?
right, go ahead, Omar.
Sorry about that, Laura. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna email the Bronx Borough Coordinator for Department of Health, and I'm gonna invite her to next week's meeting, and we're gonna see if we can talk a little more about more testing sites in CB8.
You said the same thing 2 years ago, and we're just recycle. I cannot believe that we have to start from scratch again.
Yeah, they're hard to push to get them to, I think we have to do it as a collective to push to get more testing sites, even if it's portable. Right now, the main one in Riverdale is Riverdale Neighborhood Housing, and we want more testing sites. So
Yeah, there's a line there.
yeah, so
That's
I'm gonna talk to Erica again and see if I can get her to come to this meeting and talk a little bit more about what they
And
can do.
Omar, what about Marble Hill? Is NYCHA providing? I'm just asking things you would ask in a committee meeting, but I just want to express my concern because we are truly underserved in this area.
Right. So I don't understand your question. You said, is Marble Hill providing?
Is NYCHA providing any testing, or is there any local access for Marble Hill, Kingsbridge Heights?
No,
There is not currently.
There was a testing site or a testing van today at Reservoir and Goulden that had no line. that went up over the FIPNA list.
Thank you, Deb. Unfortunately, it would be nice if they informed the community board so we could get the word out, you know, like, I went, when I was sick, I went to Walton High School. I walked right in, there was no line, but I don't think anyone knew that that was a testing site. But I know Assemblyman Dinowitz is working really hard to get the drive-through back at Lehman College, which was also a great place if people were able to get there.
Yeah. Could we remember to make a point about this at full board, because let's not let this become normal.
I think what happened is there was this huge push for the sites, and then it kind of shifted to, we need vaccination, you know, for the vaccines. And now, because of the latest breakout, we're back to, you know, this, and I don't think the places were prepared for this, you know, this cycling back to it. So, yeah, no, it's terrible. And we will be writing our electeds, and we will be pushing for this.
So the one thing, just for some context, if I can add, it seems like there's some disconnect between what's available for, it's probably better, what's available for adults and what's available for kids. And so it seems like for the kids, there are a lot more sites, because there's a PM Pediatrics, there's a lot of the pediatrician offices are doing the testing. They said that they're explicitly not doing it for adults or even parents sometimes of the kid. So there's a little bit of, like, for adults, there seems to be a shortage, but it's less of an issue for the kids. So that's my experience, what I'm seeing around the radar. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Moses. Marty, and then Bob Bender.
Yes, I have a resolution, not a resolution, but a presentation to offer the executive committee. If Carol will put it up, please.
One second, Marty, I'll pull that up now.
All right, the background is, the LRE committee approved this last month, but there was not enough time to bring it before the executive committee, so I didn't bring it before the board last month. The issue has been a concern by some that the way we fill vacancies, midterm vacancies, somehow creates the possibility that if we announce a name before too early, people who might consider going forward wanting to apply for that position or be considered for it, will be chilled out. If XY is apply for it, they won't want me, therefore I'm not going to apply. So this resolution was designed to establish a time frame so that it says here, I don't know if anybody's read it, I prefer not to, but if I have to, I will, to establish a 10-day from the day of announcement, when the board is aware that a vacancy is coming to existence. Now, in the case of treasurer, she announced long before she submitted her actual letter of resignation. So nothing happened until the letter became effective, and then the announcement is out. I frankly, at this point, don't know if anybody has requested consideration, but the theory would be if someone said from day one, I like that job, then others might not apply. So this is designed to go into the ethical guidance manual. And so if you haven't read it, I'll read it. If there are comments, I'll start from there.
Marty, I have a quick question. Was this voted on at LRE?
Yes, it was. There was some wordsmithing afterwards, which we've discussed as a possibility. And so this represents the exact intent of the members of the committee.
Marty, we never received a resolution from you with the vote and anything like that.
It's in my minutes,
Is this
I'm
supposed
sorry.
to be going to the full board?
Absolutely. They have to vote on it to put it into the ethical guidance manual. It was in my minutes. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay, very good. All right, anybody have any comments or
Yeah,
discussion?
I do.
Okay, David?
Yeah, I
Bob
got,
Bender, I'm sorry, Bob Bender, is your hand up from before?
It's up from before and it concerns the testing site. So why don't we deal with the resolution now?
Right, okay, David.
okay, yeah, I got a memorandum in triplicate from the Office of Redundancy and Superfluous Language. I was wondering about that first sentence. Upon the vacancy of any officer or elected committee chair position as the result of death, resignation, or termination. What does as a result of death, resignation, or termination do for us?
You'll have to go to the bylaws and find out why it's in there, but that's exactly the phrase taken from there, redundant or not.
Okay, well, if we're gonna change it, why don't we clean it up?
But that requires a bylaws change.
Oh, the guidance manual is a suggestion as opposed to a bylaw change?
Correct.
Okay, now I at least understand the why. Thank you.
Rosemary.
Just very quickly, Marty, thank you for putting this together. It is, I will say that the language is obviously has been wordsmithed after our meeting, and there's just I do have one concern. This was done for one purpose and one purpose only, and the state, well, it's gone now, so I can't put the phrase out, but can you put it up again? I'm sorry. Hello?
Kira?
Yep, I'm sorry, one
Knock,
second.
There were a couple of things that are not redundant is one thing, but the redundancies are in the bylaws. But there's one phrase that troubles me, and I don't want to create another problem or any misapprehension about what people have to do. Doug, okay, I'm going to
Just give
stop
me
till it
one,
comes up.
no, just give me
Yes,
one
no?
moment. I had X'd it out, so I'm just pulling it back up. And I don't have the actual resolution, so I'm
Okay,
getting it from my email.
no, it's the email piece. Okay, so expressions of interest may be submitted at, I can't even read it. It's our pictures cut it off, but that expressions of interest may be submitted at blah, 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 blah. Here is my concern is it feels like there is not an obligation on the part of somebody who wants to run to make an expression of interest. There is no duty on the part of somebody who wants to run for the vacant position to express their interest to anybody whatsoever until the day of the meeting where the nominations are put on the floor. And that's what bothers me about that. Expressions of interest may be submitted. It feels like, oh, you're allowed to, and up to this point, it's kind of expected you will express your interest. There is no obligation on the part of somebody to express any interest whatsoever. And I just worry about that phrase, that it gives a different sentiment, and that bothers me. These little things bother me, and that one bothers me. The rest is duplicative of the bylaws, so it's repetition of the bylaws. That's okay, repetition. But that phrase does bother me, and that is new to what we had at LRA. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. I'm done.
If you're okay, then I'll answer then. If you're done.
I know
Rosemary?
there's no fight. I'm expressing my
Okay, I'm trying to
opinion.
get it
Take it,
worded.
don't take it. I don't care.
That expression right there, expressions of interest, replace the word nominations, because nominations isn't appropriate, because as the last sentence says, all nominations are made from the floor. And so the idea, again, We didn't want to present a situation where if someone said, I want that job, you wouldn't apply for it. And so, yeah, the 10 days before any announcement is made that someone expressed interest, and you're free to do it anytime you want. Day 1, day 30, whatever it is, or day 60, because there's 2 months involved. You can still, but no, the last part is important. Those expression of interest isn't a nomination. The actual nomination comes from the floor at the date of the vote.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Any follow-up on outstanding issues?
Well, is it my turn now?
Yes.
Okay. So just getting back to the issue of vaccination sites, I do agree. You know, that I'm aware of some sites and the lines are extensive. The urgent care, for instance, up at the Skyview Shopping Center is doing testing. And the reason I know they're doing testing is that every time I've been up there, there's been a line that runs from the urgent care, the entire length of the shopping center down to 259th Street. So, you know, and I have no idea, because I haven't been on that line, how long it takes, but it has to be at least an hour and could well be longer than that. Lehman is doing testing,
3
but
hours.
they're doing testing only for Lehman students and faculty and staff right now. But it would be great if, you know, if we could get a testing site over there as well. And the last thing, as you mentioned, as somebody mentioned, Riverdale Neighborhood House, I passed by yesterday morning and there was a piece of loose leaf paper taped to a fence that said testing today, 9:30 to 1. So I don't know if there's a regular schedule at Neighborhood House or if it's just day by day. But you know, but as everybody has said, this is inadequate. We really do need more.
Absolutely. Ramdot, I see your hand.
Yeah, Riverdale Neighborhood House, they put their schedule on social media, and also like RKA has a partnership with RNH, so I get their emails. So their e-blast also has a schedule as well. If when I get those, I'll definitely forward those to the board office as well. So they can be put out as well.
Thank you, Ramdot. Thank you. Okay, I don't see any other hands for, I want to thank everybody for their lively participation tonight. And I want to wish everybody again, good health in 2022. This has been a wonderful meeting and it is 8:32 and that makes me very happy. So without further ado, good night, everybody. Okay, have a wonderful evening. Good night.
Good night.
Right.